Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 67, New Techniques. Bailey Qingmiao said she was going to just change her clothes, but Yin Hanjiang ended up waiting outside her door for 3 days. After waiting for an hour, Yin Hanjiang started to lose patience, pacing back and forth outside. He wanted to throw the door open but was concerned that Bailey Qingmiao would be in the middle of changing clothes and he would end up see something he shouldn't. Yin Hanjiang originally didn't care about accidentally seeing a female body. It was just all human skin to him. Forget about bodies without clothes, he had seen plenty of bodies without flesh in his life. Of the 2 Xianyuan sect protectors, one dressed skimpily and one found having flesh distasteful. After knowing these 2 for so long, it was hard for Yin Hanjiang to have any sense of modesty towards the opposite sex. Just when he was about to kick the door open, Xu Yanyan, who had been lazing around wherever for the past few days, rushed up and blocked Yin Hanjiang's kick with a smile, standing in front of the door. "Don't be so impatient, sect leader," she said. "How can you barge in as you like on a girl changing?" She looked unruffled on the surface but on the inside, she was cursing. Wenren he had just sent her a message saying that Bailey Qingmiao had entered meditation and since Zhongli Qian was too busy and he really didn't want to bother him anymore, he needed her to come prevent Yin Hanjiang from barging in. If Bailey Qingmiao was disturbed, the path of indifference that she had finally enlightened to would be interrupted. Wenren he wanted to go outside and explain himself but Yin Hanjiang would suffer internal injuries if he saw him. Moreover, even the perpetually oblivious Wenren he had learned to be a bit more considerate after causing his lover to cough up blood and nearly die upon confessing his feelings. He realized that should he emerge from Bailey Qingmiao's room, Yin Hanjiang might be affected by the original plot's events and his thoughts might go wild again. So, he had asked Xu Yanyan, who was closest to Qiu Kongxiu's rooms, to come and help out. As for why it wasn't Qiu Kongxiu whom he asked since she was even closer, did that warrant any explanation? When Xu Yanyan visited Zhongli Qian a few days earlier and picked up a strand of his hair from the floor, she had known that Wenren he was back and had left Yin Hanjiang still in charge of the sect. Wenren he's presence itself had the ability to keep Xianyuan sect in line, so she instantly realized that she now had 2 superiors instead of 1, feeling a hint of dismay in her heart. Most importantly, this time Wenren he specified that Xu Yanyan couldn't mention this was on his orders, so Xu Yanyan was in an even more difficult position. She was starting to understand how Zhongli Qian, who was a Mahayana cultivator, could be losing hair. Brushing a hand over her head of luxuriant black hair, Xu Yanyan smiled at him as she spoke softly, "Ah, sect leader Yin, you may be strong but your understanding of what men like and what they think about is rather lacking." She walked near, leaning toward his ear and whispering, "If you barge in and see Bailey Qingmiao improperly dressed, do you think the Venerable One will be happy?" Xu Yanyan thought that Yin Hanjiang would realize what she was insinuating but instead, he gave the door a disdainful glance. Raising his head, he said haughtily, "The Venerable One doesn't like Bailey Qingmiao." Xu Yanyan. She was realizing that she had overestimated Yin Hanjiang. Seeing him glance at her smugly and turn to kick the door again, she hurried to stop him. Though gritted teeth, she transmitted, "Of course I know who the Venerable One likes but the problem isn't you seeing Bailey Qingmiao changing, it's you seeing anyone besides Wenren he changing, whether male or female." Yin Hanjiang's foot was already against the door, prepared to bring down the whole room but when he heard what Xu Yanyan had said, his face immediately turned red. Very slowly, he drew back his foot. Stiffening his face and raising his chin, he looked down on her as he transmitted. "Protector Xu, as one of this sect's pillars, what do you say I should do in this situation?" Xu Yanyan rolled her eyes inwardly but she was outwardly respectful as she spoke. "Why don't I go in and take a look, and ask Bailey Qingmiao to hurry up? That's what a subordinate should be for, right?" "Yeah." Yin Hanjiang put his hands behind his back, turning calmly so Xu Yanyan could act. Xu Yanyan entered, turned in a circle and came back out. Bailey Qingmiao has entered a deep meditation. She can enter a deep meditation while changing clothes. Yin Hanjiang asked. How would I know? If you just barge in, she might have a qi deviation. If sect leader is impatient. She thought back to her meeting with Wenrenhe in his room. Wenrenhe wanted her to talk Yin Hanjiang around and ask him not to be impatient, but she mustn't provoke him, in case he had another qi deviation. Xu Yanyan finally understood why someone like Zhongli Qian, who was usually as unfettered as a breeze, had been looking more haggard recently. She originally thought there wasn't anything that could stump someone so smart as Zhongli Qian. But facing this dilemma, she realized there truly was. They were being pressured by two tyrants. Wenrenhe wanted her to talk around Yin Hanjiang, but also wanted her to be careful, to use a delicate touch so as not to aggravate him. He was only considerate toward Yin Hanjiang. He didn't think about that. Should sect leader Yin disciplined her, would he use a delicate touch? Good thing she was Xu Yanyan, who had once served the old sect master, then Wenrenhe, and now Yin Hanjiang. Seeing Yin Hanjiang's expression was growing darker, she smiled even more sweetly and transmitted, if sect leader Yin is impatient, why don't you use this time to learn some new techniques? This lord has already passed his tribulation, so what technique of the cultivation world could be of use to me? Yin Hanjiang said coldly. Don't be so sure. How about, Xu Yanyan leaned closer to Yin Hanjiang and made a very recognizable shape with her mouth. Yin Hanjiang's skin was pale and his emotions showed easily on his face. His blush, which had just faded, reappeared instantly. He turned with a flap of his sleeve, hiding his face, and when Xu Yanyan could next see it clearly, he was already wearing a mask. This lord may already be powerful, but there's nothing wrong with learning a few more techniques, he said. Underneath the mask, his voice was steady. Bailey Qingmiao needs to meditate alone for a while anyway, so this lord might as well see if he can pass the time with these techniques of yours. Xu Yanyan. Keep pretending. This protector has so many techniques you won't be able to learn them in a year. I won't just teach them to you, I'll teach them to Wenrenhe, and after you seclude yourselves together for 30 or 50 years, Xianyuan sect will belong to me. While cussing him out mentally, Xu Yanyan's expression remained perfectly deferent as she invited Yin Hanjiang to her cultivation grounds, where she instructed him in her techniques for 3 full days. Bailey Qingmiao had already laid down the foundations of the path of indifference. She was just taken advantage of by the divine nature every time she underwent a tribulation by suppressing the principles she had just enlightened to. With the help of the divine bloodstone, as well as Wenrenhe, Yin Hanjiang, Qiu Kongxiu and Zhongli Qian, she comprehended everything in a flash. She was enlightened to great principles after 3 days, and signs of her enlightenment remained in her eyes after she left her trance. She had advanced directly to void boundary stage, just 1 step away from Mahayana. Looking at you, it seems the tribulation to advance from body unity to void boundary had no effect on you, Wenrenhe said pleasantly. Thanks to Senior Wenren's guidance, my heart is now as still as water, Bailey Qingmiao said calmly. Then this venerable one has another favor to ask, Wenrenhe said. While you go to Shangqing sect, this venerable one wishes to borrow your body to enter along with you. Yin Hanjiang was afflicted by heart demons. He might be powerful, but the Shangqing sect had their moon pool bell and the blood demon, so Wenrenhe was afraid that complications might arise somewhere along the way. He wasn't at ease with Yin Hanjiang going alone, yet if they were face to face, Yin Hanjiang would be tormented by being unable to tell him apart from the illusions. With all that in mind, the best way was possessing Bailey Qingmiao's body to follow Yin Hanjiang. If anything went wrong, he could help out secretly. In the past, Bailey Qingmiao would have never agreed. It was hard enough for her to act against He Wenzhao, let alone allow Wenrenhe to use her body. Her thoughts were different now, however. He Wenzhao was an obstacle in the way of her path of indifference. After so much trouble, she'd finally enlightened to this path, so it would be bad if she saw him again and slipped into old habits. With this plan, Senior Wenren could be reassured and she could keep her heart from being shaken, so it was the perfect method. There's naturally no issue. In fact, I should thank my senior. Wenren-he's possession technique no longer worked the same way as a blood cultivator's. He had already taken advantage of the blood demon's attack to escape the body of a blood cultivator, and now his soul was composed of chaos energy. The primordial chaos was the only force in the universe before the separation of heaven and earth, so all material things originated from it. He could meld with anything without a trace, undetectable to a degree that the blood demon wasn't capable of. Thus, the one who walked out of the room wasn't Bailey Qingmiao but Wenren, he who was wearing her body. He knew Yin Hanjiang still bore a grudge about the events of the original plot, so he decided not to tell him that he was possessing Bailey Qingmiao. They would just take a trip to Shangqing sect and come back, so he didn't need to reveal himself. Yin Hanjiang had already returned after completing Xu Yanyan's tutelage. With great effort, he suppressed the blush on his face with his spiritual energy and took off his mask, saying coldly to Bailey Qingmiao, "You sure have wasted this lord's time and made him wait for you. Hurry up and get going. The faster we get there, the faster we're back." He put on Yao Jiaping's skin and flew off without another word to Bailey Qingmiao. Wenren, he wasn't good at impersonating other people in the first place, so seeing that Yin Hanjiang didn't need a response, he followed in silence. Yin Hanjiang could bring Bailey Qingmiao along as he flew, but after learning Xu Yanyan's techniques, he had some aversion to touching others' skin. For example, when Yin Hanjiang used to kill people, he had no problem with grabbing their necks or ripping out their hearts with his bare hands, but after knowing about some of these techniques, when Yin Hanjiang attacked people in the future, he might wrap ropes around their necks or stab them in the heart with a weapon, preferring to have a barrier between their skins. If he wanted to take someone along in a light flash, he would have to warp them in his body, or if it were a sword flight, Bailey Qingmiao would have to sit on the army-crushing spike. Yin Hanjiang didn't want either. He could only go on ahead and wait for Bailey Qingmiao to slowly catch up to him. Wenren-he's light flash was quick, but since he was pretending to be Bailey Qingmiao, he couldn't go at those kinds of speeds. At Void Boundary, it would take her half a day to get from Xianyuan sect to Shangqing sect. Also, he couldn't bring out the iridescent blood flame silk that she had refined from the divine blood stone either, because the divine blood stone would cause Wenren-he to gain a solid form and would be unable to possess her. He could only fly slowly by curbing his speed. Seeing Yin Hanjiang disappear into the distance, he thought this wasn't the way he had wanted to accompany him. After flying for about 2 hours, he saw Yin Hanjiang in the shape of Yao Jiaping, come flying back. Furiously, he said, "You're too slow. This lord has waited at the tea house for an hour." Wenren-he was trying to think of an explanation when he saw Yin Hanjiang remove from his silver kinkan pouch a heavenly silk rope. It could change length at will and was used for capturing people in Xianyuan sect. Yin Hanjiang had previously dragged back the dozen or so scum of the righteous sects, all wrapped up in this rope. Hold Bailey Qingmiao had just opened her mouth when Yin Hanjiang wrapped her into a bundle so that no skin showed. He then lifted her over his shoulders and headed towards to Shangqing sect. After they arrived, Yin Hanjiang retrieved the rope with a cold huff and dropped Bailey Qingmiao. Wenren-he turned cleanly in midair and managed not to fall on his face. After landing solidly on both feet, he said to Yin Hanjiang, "You could have just taken me on your sword. What was the need for that? This lord shouldn't have close contact with you." Yin Hanjiang gave Bailey Qingmiao a cold look. "Don't expect this lord to hold you in my embrace the whole way." Wenren-he wanted to speak but remembered how in the original story, he was always described as carrying Bailey Qingmiao in his embrace the whole way as he flew. That was a direct quote. Yin Hanjiang seemed to still have problems with the original story. Wenren-he thought Yin Hanjiang didn't like how he loved Bailey Qingmiao in the original book and was thus treating her poorly. He didn't know that Yin Hanjiang was furious about something else. His Venerable One had treated Bailey Qingmiao so well, yet all she'd thought about was He Wenzhou. She was worthless. The person his heart was devoted to had been discarded like an old shoe, so how could he not be furious? So now, even though those events had never happened this time around and could never possibly happen, Yin Hanjiang still felt an indescribable distaste toward Bailey Qingmiao. With a cold huff, he used a cleaning spell on his hands, then grabbed Bailey Qingmiao's sleeve to wipe them. Wenren he. After they reached Shangqing sect, Yin Hanjiang restrained himself a bit. After all, he was supposed to be Yao Jiaping. Before Yao Jiaping departed, He Wenzhou had given him a messaging talisman. After he rescued Bailey Qingmiao and returned to Shangqing sect, all Yao Jiaping needed to do was snap it and He Wenzhou would open the wards and welcome them in. Yin Hanjiang snapped the talisman. Upon seeing it really was Yao Jiaping and Bailey Qingmiao who were outside the wards, He Wenzhou opened the ward enthusiastically and invited them in. After thanking Yao Jiaping, he threw his arms around Bailey Qingmiao, saying, "Shimei, I didn't really want to hurt you." Before he could finish, Yao Jiaping kicked him off. After kicking him, Yin Hanjiang shot a look at Bailey Qingmiao, thinking, "After you rejected my Venerable One, you let this thing hug you." Wenren he. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 68, Treasure Trove. Yin Hanjiang's kick was not light at all despite the fact that he held back his strength. After all, Yao Jiaping was a wandering immortal, so he had to act the part. He didn't really put his heart into the act, though. He Wenzhou was only at void boundary though, and with his guard completely down, there was no way he could withstand an attack with the full force of a wandering immortal. If the blood demon hadn't used spiritual energy to protect him, Yin Hanjiang's kick might have destroyed his inner organs. The blood demon did treasure He Wenzhou as a host with the potential to ascend, so that he could absorb more powerful people in the immortal realm. "What are you doing?" He Wenzhou asked as he climbed back to his feet. He was close friends with Yao Jiaping. Before, Yao Jiaping had saved the sect master and was touched by He Wenzhou's feelings toward Bailey Qingmiao, so he agreed to infiltrate Qianyuan sect to rescue her. Yao Jiaping's eccentricities were well known across the cultivation world, but he had always been loyal to He Wenzhou. He Wenzhou had never been threatened by Yao Jiaping this way before and was furious. It was too much to ask for Yin Hanjiang to act like Yao Jiaping, as impersonation was never one of his talents. Fortunately, after reading The God of Destruction, Volume 2, he had learned Yao Jiaping's catchphrases and manner of speaking, so he recited a line from the book. "Oh, I just can't stand seeing you two act so lovey-dovey with each other." Yao Jiaping was this kind of twisted person in the book. Every time a pair of lovers begged for his help, he would give them a particularly bad time. He would give them two choices, either for the woman to give her body to him, or for them to give up what was most important to them. Back when Bailey Qingmiao brought Su Huai to him, he wanted her to give over her nascent soul or her body. When He Wenzhou was traveling, he had also brought the young miss of the Gongzi sect to him. He told him clearly that he and the young miss of Gongzi sect were only acquaintances, but he also couldn't let him take a maiden's innocence, so He Wenzhou agreed to become a test subject for Yao Jiaping. After saving the young miss of the Gongzi sect, Yao Jiaping tormented He Wenzhou for a good month. He Wenzhou gritted his teeth and bore it the whole time, even getting lucky and achieving a breakthrough by increasing his cultivation because of the medicines Yao Jiaping tested on him. Yao Jiaping's interest in He Wenzhou was piqued, and he was also touched by his chivalry, so they became good friends. He Wenzhou got to know Yao Jiaping during Bailey Qingmiao's 30 years of absence, and they'd been friends for 20 years by this time. He never would have imagined that Yao Jiaping would one day say the same words to him as he did to cultivators he didn't like. Remembering Yao Jiaping's habits, he immediately turned to Bailey Qingmiao and asked, "Shimei, he didn't do anything to you, did he?" Thinking about the fees that Yao Jiaping took for his treatment, he saw how healthy Bailey Qingmiao looked. She'd been injured so badly at the Sea of Blood, yet now she had recovered perfectly. A very unpleasant notion came to He Wenzeo's mind. His face turned pale as he stumbled a few steps back while shaking his head. No, this can't be. Yin Hanjiang didn't care about where He Wenzeo's thoughts went. He came here for one purpose only, and that is to capture He Wenzeo. Right now, they were right next to the sect array and He Wenzeo was alone, so as long as they subdued the blood demon, they could carry him right off. Sect arrays were difficult to enter but easy to leave, so no one would be able to stop him and Bailey Qingmiao. Yin Hanjiang had no interest in getting himself involved in Bailey Qingmiao and He Wenzeo's relationship. He wanted to grab He Wenzeo and leave as soon as possible, so he could be back sooner for his next soul communion. The army-crushing Spike's power might not be enough to instantly subdue the blood demon, so he would need to bring out the burning sky drum. The illusions Yin Hanjiang was seeing were caused not only by his heart demons but by the burning sky drum as well. The heart demons were only capable of disrupting Yin Hanjiang's rationality. It was the burning sky drum which made them manifest as phantoms. Using a top-grade immortal artifact without sufficient power, it was natural that one would suffer a backlash. Yin Hanjiang assessed that the backlash the burning sky drum would cause and decided he could handle it, so opened his hands secretly, forming the seals to control the drum inside his sleeves. At that moment, the Shangqing sect master arrived, and upon seeing Yao Jiaping, he greeted him enthusiastically. When I saw Wenzeo open the sect array, I guessed it was due to Sir Yao's return. Sir Yao's timing is flawless. Please, come this way. Upon seeing the sect master, the skin over Yin Hanjiang's face twitched. His two enemies were both right in front of him. He was wildly delighted, nearly unable to keep the skin he wore in place. Wenren he quickly grabbed Yin Hanjiang's hand, afraid that he would act without thinking. Back when he infiltrated Shangqing sect last time using Lu Xinyi's body, he could still endure it and hold back his disgust to meet He Wenzeo. If He Wenzeo was alone here, he and Yin Hanjiang could just work together to capture him and leave quickly. But now that the sect master had arrived, they were in enemy territory and they didn't know how many cards did the Shangqing sect had up their sleeves, so they couldn't act recklessly at this time. Seeing Bailey Qingmiao voluntarily reach for Yao Jiaping's hand, He Wenzeo was so mad he nearly bled from the eyes. Yet Yao Jiaping threw her hand off, glancing at her haughtily and reciting another line from the God of Destruction, Volume 2, "Do you think you could possibly live up to my Xiao Yi?" At the same time, he transmitted, "I know what you're thinking. This lord has other plans for the Shangqing sect master, so this isn't a suitable time to deal with them both out at once." He took a deep breath and managed to calm down. He stiffened his expression and looked at the sect master. "Seeing as you're so anxious, I assume you have a patient for me." "Yes, precisely." The sect master paid no mind to the strained atmosphere between Bailey Qingmiao, Yao Jiaping, and He Wenzeo. He felt ashamed for his actions toward Bailey Qingmiao and didn't want to involve himself in his junior's relationships, so he could only pretend to be blind to it. He said to Yao Jiaping, "Shangqing sect already owes an immeasurable debt to Sir Yao for rescuing one of its disciples from Xianyuan sect, so we're really not in a position to ask more favors, but King Yu's life is in danger right now. No one but Sir Yao could save him. No matter whether or not you succeed, as long as you're willing to help him, Shangqing sect will go through heaven and hell to carry out any request of Sir Yao's in the future, as long as it doesn't betray our principles." Yin Hanjiang raised an eyebrow slightly. Forget the future, he would have a request for Shangqing sect very soon, and they would neither have to betray their principles nor go through heaven and hell. It was a very minor request. In that case, there was no reason he couldn't fool around for a while. Yin Hanjiang nodded. "Sure. Take me there." He sat obediently on a flying boat with the sect master with Bailey Qingmiao following close behind. Seeing his shimei follow Yao Jiaping everywhere without even sparing him a glance, He Wenzeo was so mad he nearly gave himself internal injuries. The sect master gave He Wenzhou a look of warning. Hurry up. His disciple was good in every way except when it came to women. He was perfectly aware that despite of He Wenzhou being married to Lu Xinyi, he still acted ambiguously with the young miss of the Gongzi sect, was close with several of his shimei and still had his heart set on Bailey Qingmiao. If he hadn't kept all those women in line and prevented any trouble from starting, as well as being strong enough to be Shangqing sect's future pillar, the sect master would have long since reprimanded him. At the moment, he could only look the other way. However, the Shangqing sect owed a debt to Yao Jiaping, who had once treated the sect master and now was being asked to treat elder Qingyu, so how could he let He Wenzhou antagonize him over a woman? With his master's admonishment, He Wenzhou held back his dissatisfaction. He clenched his fists as he swore that he wouldn't forget how Yao Jiaping stole his girl. After this treatment was done, he was going to confront him. Promising to rescue his beloved and then ending up with her. How was that good brotherly behavior? He and his shimei were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. How could Yao Jiaping dared get in between them? Yin Hanjiang obviously didn't know medicine. He planned to just play along, though he did know what kind of injury this Qingyu had sustained. Coming to a side room, he glanced at elder Qingyu, who had white hair and his face covered with wrinkles and age spots, then pretended to take his pulse as the sect master explained everything to him. A year and a half ago, during the battle at the Sea of Blood, the new sect leader of Xianyuan sect threw away his life and faced a heavenly tribulation to use an immortal artifact, chasing Wenzhou and myself all the way back to the sect. We made it behind the wards in time, but that man tried to use the burning sky drum to break the array. In order to protect Shangqing sect, King Yoshidi used our defensive immortal artifact, the Moon Pool Bell, and had his spiritual chi drained and suffered a backlash. Now, he's suffering the 5 declines, and though we've used elixirs and medicines to prolong his life, it's no longer enough and his life is about to burn out. So, it was him who had gotten in Yin Hanjiang's way that day. Yin Hanjiang looked down at Qingyu's face, thinking karma worked in mysterious ways. About to burn out? Don't worry, he would make him burn very brightly indeed, once he turned him into an everlasting lamp. This trip to Shangqing sect felt like entering a treasure trove. Everyone he ran into was someone he bore a grudge against. It was simply too fortuitous. The skin on Yao Jiaping's face twisted again. It looked as if the muscles underneath were smiling while the skin outside didn't move, creating a chilling effect. Seeing his expression, the sect master became anxious. It can't be that not even Sir Yao can treat this? Oh, Shidi, this Shikshan has harmed you. In order to display the dignity of a sect master, he purposefully appeared like a middle-aged man, with black hair and a long beard like a poor official, which was a popular look in the mortal world. Tears fell from his eyes as he kneeled at Qingyu's side, silently sobbing. Bailey Qingmiao took a glance at Qingyu and transmitted to Yin Hanjiang, "There's a way." Since Wenren he was using Bailey Qingmiao's body to send the transmission, the voice was still Bailey Qingmiao's. He had previously taken in Yao Jiaping's memories, so he knew there was a cure. A Mahayana cultivator must be willing to transfer over all of their spiritual chi, after which elixirs are administered. This will allow the patient to return to body unity stage. However, they will always remain at body unity stage and won't be able to advance any further. There's also a second method, finding the 5 aggregates herb. The 5 declines affect all beings, from ascended gods to the smallest insects, and all things are destined to undergo this trial aside from the primordial gods who were born with the cosmos. Cultivation is only able to delay this fate. Only the 5 aggregates herb, nurtured by the heavens and earth, can treat the 5 declines, but that's a treasure of the divine realm and many ascended gods want to get their hands on it. Yin Hanjiang gave Bailey Qingmiao a look that said, "What's use was there in mentioning something they couldn't get?" "I actually have it with me," Bailey Qingmiao transmitted. In the original plot, Bailey Qingmiao stumbled into a small primordial realm and obtained the 5 aggregates herb only to naturally gave it to He Wenzhou. The 5 aggregates herb was drawn to her primordial divinity, so this time, even though He Wenzhou didn't need it, she still found it during her 30 years of travel. Herself, Zhongli Qian, Qiu Kongxiu and Su Huai were all unable to identify it, only knowing that it was something that belonged to the divine realm, so they had kept it hidden all this time. "Don't ruin my plans," Yin Hanjiang transmitted. He turned to look at Shangqing sect's only Mahayana cultivator, the sect master, and smiled pleasantly. "There's a way." He never mentioned the 5 aggregates herb and only shared the first method. He then said, "I can teach you the transfer method and refine the supplemental elixirs for you. Whether or not you want to trade a Mahayana cultivator for a body unity one who will never advance anymore and still experience the 5 declines after 500 years, that's up to you." The Shangqing sect master was shaken. "Isn't there any other way? Even ascended gods can't avoid the 5 declines, so what can I as a wandering immortal do?" Yin Hanjiang sat casually in a chair and gave the sect master an uncaring look. "It's your decision whether or not you want to save him. As for my fee, no need to wait for the future." Yin Hanjiang glanced at He Wenzhou and smiled gleefully. After putting on a glove, he grabbed the back of Bailey King Miao's neck and addressed He Wenzhou, "How about giving her to me?" End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 69, Bested by Rumors. Yao Jiaping character were made up of the following: a lofty position as an elite healer, contempt for others, so-called dedication to his Xiaoyi, and disdain for other women. Yin Hanjiang wasn't a particularly good actor, but with Wenren he transmitting details of the treatments to him, he could play the part well enough. Seeing how Bailey Qingmiao still acted so docile even though Yao Jiaping was grabbing her, He Wenzhou was trembling in rage. While pointing a finger at Yao Jiaping, he exclaimed, "I can't believe that after I treated you as a good friend and sworn brother, you would do this to me. Besides, isn't your heart stuck on your Xiaoyi? What do you want my shime for?" "Oh," Yin Hanjiang said slowly, enjoying He Wenzhou's expression. He grabbed Bailey King Miao's dress and used it to wipe the hand he had just touched Elder King Yu with. This woman might be suited for being a rag. "Shime, are you happy being treated like this?" He Wenzhou shouted at Bailey Qingmiao. If it was Xu Yanyan playing the part, she would probably be crying at this point and would be unable to speak, putting on a no-holds-barred performance of a pure-hearted girl forced to dishonor herself for the sake of her sect. Too bad it was Wenren he who was here, though. Watching Yin Hanjiang play the part of Yao Jiaping, he was seeing another side of the man. He was no longer grieving but still as unrestrained. So, this was Yin Hanjiang's true nature. He truly wasn't suited to be a sword cultivator. A sword cultivator needed to be bold in the beginning and reserved later on, until they reached the point of embodying the nature of the sword itself, such as sharpness showed in every move and glance. Yin Hanjiang was all boldness, so he had advanced quickly through the earlier stages but became stuck at void boundary. Yet when he gave up the sword, he instantly broke through to the peak of Mahayana. Wenren he simultaneously thought that he had gotten in the way of Yin Hanjiang's growth, and felt that this was quite a refreshing sight. Seeing how Yin Hanjiang put on a glove to grab Bailey Qingmiao's neck, he seemed so polite and cute, so how could Wenren he put up an act of being coerced? Wenren he could only raise a sleeve to block the smile that he couldn't hold back. He turned his head aside and acted too ashamed to let He Wenzhou see his face, even though he was grinning inside. Wenren he barely managed to stay in character, but He Wenzhou believed that Bailey Qingmiao had been broken after being abused, thinking she was unworthy of him and was now unable to look directly at him. "Yao Jiaping, this marks the end of our..." Before He Wenzhou could finish his words, the sect master moved before him with a flap of his sleeves and bowed to Yao Jiaping. "My Shidi sustained this injury while saving Wenzhou and myself, so I must repay him. Even if I can only give him 500 years of life, he might yet find opportunities to advance in that period. As the only Mahayana cultivator of Shangqing sect, naturally it falls to me to save my Shidi. The sect master looked at Bailey Qingmiao and after a moment of thought, he continued, as for Sir Yao's fee, in my humble opinion, Bailey Qingmiao is unacceptable. She is a disciple of Shangqing sect and even if she has gone down the wrong path before, Shangqing sect cannot give her away like an object. I've watched Bailey Qingmiao grow up. She's a kind and pure-hearted girl, and even if she's a bit gullible, she would never do anything immoral. If Sir Yao needs a test subject or a rag, this lowly deist will do his best but Bailey Qingmiao cannot be given to you. Hearing his words, Yin Hanjiang and Wenren he sobered up again. Yin Hanjiang was naturally gloomy and a bit vicious but he had been influenced by Wenren he since his youth and he approved of people who could give their own lives to protect others. Of course, if he didn't know that Wenren he was still alive, he wouldn't have shown any mercy no matter how much he approved of someone. Knowing of Wenren he's survival had mellowed out Yin Hanjiang a lot. He stood up. What is the use of a foundation establishment test subject? And why would I need Bailey Qingmiao? It's not like I don't have rags. It was just a joke. As for my fee, we can talk about it after the treatment. Yin Hanjiang wrote down the transfer method and the prescription for the elixir. The medicinal ingredients were common enough, so Shangqing sect stocks had plenty of them. They could start refining the elixirs anytime, but it would take 3 to 5 days to finish it, during which Yao Jiaping needed to oversee it. Yin Hanjiang naturally knew nothing about refining elixirs. Bailey Qingmiao had written the prescription, so he made Bailey Qingmiao his assistant, helping him fan fires. After receiving the technique and the prescription, the sect master treated them like treasures. He sat at King Yu's bedside and spoke with joyful tears, Shidi, there's hope for you. Shikshan, Elder King Yu reached out a hand, powerlessly grabbing the prescription and trying to tear it. You can't do this. You have a hope for ascending. You mustn't waste your gifts on me. Moreover, the sect still needs you. The sect master said resolutely, Shidi, some exchanges can't be weighed in terms of value. It's my wish to save you. Even if I'll go back to the foundation establishment stage and my future cultivation will be arduous, it won't be impossible. As for the sect, Wenzhou has already grown up and I can rest easy leaving the sect to him. Yao Jiaping watched indifferently at one side. The flesh underneath his skin twitched once, his expression dark. King Yu needed to take some medicines before he could withstand the transfer technique, so Yao Jiaping would be spending the next few days making the elixirs. He forbade other people from entering and set up an array outside the room, shutting himself in with Bailey Qingmiao. Many rumors about Bailey Qingmiao had already spread throughout the sect. After returning to his room, Wenzhou had cussed out Yao Jiaping, which was overheard by Lu Xinyi. She proceeded to spread the news around about Bailey Qingmiao and Yao Jiaping within the sect, saying she had not only taken the Xianyuan sect protector Qiu Kongxiu as a mentor but had also learned the art of plucking and replenishing from left protector Xu Yanyan and dual cultivated with Yao Jiaping to gain power. Afterwards, Yao Jiaping had treated her as a rag and thrown her away. There were other rumors that Bailey Qingmiao had raised her cultivation so fast because in her 30 years of travel, she had dual cultivated with Zhongli Qian many times, and she didn't even pass up her young disciple Su Huai. Other people said that Bailey Qingmiao was perfectly healthy despite her bonded weapon having been broken because she had received favor from the 2 successive Xianyuan sect leaders during her stay. In just 2 days, Bailey Qingmiao was regarded within the sect as a woman who would sleep with anyone. The targets of the rumors, besides Yao Jiaping, just happened to be Wenren He, Zhongli Qian, Yin Hanjiang, and Su Huai, the 4 love interests in abusive love affair. In the original story, Lu Xinyi also started these kinds of rumors in order to destroy Wenzhou and Bailey Qingmiao's relationship. Wenzhou misunderstood her for a long time and ignored her every time she tried to explain, treating her awfully for a while. As the rumors spread, Yin Hanjiang and Bailey Qingmiao were focused on refining elixirs. It was mainly Bailey Qingmiao who was doing all the work while Yin Hanjiang sat on a chair in the medicinal hall, holding the God of Destruction, Volume 2, while he contemplated. He was trying to think of a method to make the victim of the qi transfer to be He Wenzhou. The transfer required a Mahayana cultivator, so He Wenzhou wasn't strong enough. But Yin Hanjiang noticed that he was showing signs of a breakthrough. When he was confronting Yao Jiaping, he was so furious he nearly advanced on the spot. In The God of Destruction, Volume 2, every time Bailey Qingmiao was kidnapped, He Wenzhou would have a breakthrough before or during combat. Filled with righteous anger about his woman, he would score an underdog victory. Right now, if he tried to take on the wandering immortal Yao Jiaping at Void Boundary, the difference was too much even for an underdog. If he rose to Mahayana, he would have some hope. And at Mahayana, he could participate in the transfer. If He Wenzhou fell to Foundation establishment, the Shangqing sect master had to watch helplessly as his sect's future pillar was ruined and Elder Qingyu would live the rest of his life in regret. That sounded more fun than killing the lot. The Shangqing sect master and Elder Qingyu were both pedantic righteous cultivators, so even if they were killed by demonic cultivators, they would die happily having given their lives for the righteous path, so there was no fun in killing them. It would be better to see them suffer. Yin Hanjiang rearranged the skin over his face, so that Yao Jiaping's skin smiled together with him. Wenren he who was watching him from one side. The hardest parts of refining elixirs were starting the fires and collecting the pills, but the process itself was not complicated since all was needed was to stabilize the furnace fire. Therefore, Wenren he had only been busy while starting the fire and spent the next 2 days being idle. Yin Hanjiang had nothing to say to Bailey Qingmiao while they were together. One stayed inside and one outside, having nothing to do with each other. When Yin Hanjiang wasn't paying attention, Wenren he would use the elixir furnace to block Yin Hanjiang's sight as he read his 2 books. When he read, he blocked Bailey Qingmiao's consciousness so that she wouldn't be able to see the book's contents, in order to prevent the readers from knowing that one of the characters they were reading was aware that they were in a book. The comments for the God of Destruction poured like water, cursing the author. They didn't expect that Bailey Qingmiao, who had always been regarded as part of He Wenzhou's harem, would be given to the protagonist's sworn brother. This kind of plot with wearing a green hat was simply disgusting. Many readers abandoned the novel while others said since it was a revised version, it didn't cost money and insisted to see it until the end, to see how this novel would abuse the protagonist even more. Meanwhile, the readers of Abusive Love Affair were reading through Bailey Qingmiao's point of view and knew that Yao Jiaping was Yin Hanjiang in disguise and Wenren he was controlling Bailey Qingmiao's body. The protagonist herself knew everything that happened but couldn't interfere. Everything happening at Shangqing sect was shown to the readers and the comment section was on fire. Now that Bailey Qingmiao switched to the path of indifference, the author has changed the story's category to no romance. After following this romance story for so long, it's become a story about a female protagonist defying the heavens. I should complain, but how come it feels so refreshing? It really is refreshing. The protagonist hasn't been mistreated once in the revision. Every time the female villains or the male lead wants to bully her, she would be rescued by her violent sisters or handsome brothers. Violent sister, what a good term. It fits a certain person perfectly. You can say her name aloud. Elder Qingxiu, my favorite protector Qiu Kongxiu. An independent, unique woman who views physical beauty like dirt and wants nothing other than to become a skeleton. From the moment the protagonist saved Qiu Kongxiu in the war instead of the devil Venerable, the story's been completely different. Right, when He Wenzhou was injured, Qiu Kongxiu stopped the protagonist from sacrificing herself for him. When He Wenzhou slept with Lu Xinyi, Elder Qingxiu planned their wedding. When He Wenzhou got married, Qiu Kongxiu brought the protagonist to Xianyuan sect and tied her to Zhongli Qian, then the 4 of them rampaged across the world for 30 years. How is this an abusive romance? It's been a comedy throughout. Qing did the most work, but coming in second has to be my devil Venerable. What kind of a brain does he have that thought of using a tracking curse and some heart-linking goo for matchmaking? The devil Venerable doesn't understand love. Third place is Cyan. I'm begging you, author, show him some mercy. In Xianyuan sect, Shu Yanyan is indulging in men all day, Qing is always bullying people and getting bullied, Hall Master Miao is apparently developing a new bug, Hall Master Ruan must be hibernating like a tortoise with how little he appears, and Hall Master Shi spends all day being a bootlicker. Cyan is the only one who does any work around there. With so many people in Xianyuan sect, don't you feel guilty assigning everything to the newest Hall Master? Cyan is about to lose his hair, think of his hair. Fourth place is Yin Hanjiang, he really managed to change my opinion. Not only has he not turned the protagonist into an everlasting lamp, but he shook her awake and helped her enter the path of indifference. In the original version, Yin Hanjiang made you feel like you were reading a horror story, but now he seems a bit doesn't he? It was awesome when he kicked He Wenzhao. And when he grabbed BLQM's nape and said I want her, that was so cool. I think I've fallen for the overbearing Yandere type. I've always thought that the best way to deal with a scumbag male was to have all the things he did to the female lead repaid to him, but that would be too pitiful for our little girl. But now, Yin Hanjiang's given me the satisfaction. See, do you know how it feels now to watch the person you love be with someone else? Keep talking about forgiveness and generosity, it's all a fantasy. There's no room for a third party in a relationship. Well said. Though one question, who's he she? From if you learn the Dao in the morning, you can die happily in the evening one scumbag he. If the protagonist wasn't cultivating the no romance path, I'd almost support her and Yin Hanjiang together, facepalm. Stop your dangerous thoughts, remember it's Wenren that's inside Bailey King Miao's body now Yin Hanjiang belongs to Wenren Wenren ran a finger over the words, Yin Hanjiang belongs to Wenren and smiled slightly. Abusive love affair was written from the protagonist's point of view but occasionally, when female villains tried to harm her, it would give a bit of an omniscient perspective, letting the readers see what awful things the villains were doing so they could worry. Upon discovering what Lu Xinyi had done, Wenren was considering how he should strike back when he heard Yin Hanjiang in the room. Hey, Rag Bailey Qingmiao. Come here. Wenren quickly put away the books and went over and found Yin Hanjiang smiling gleefully. He reached out a hand. Hand me Lu Xinyi's spirit vow. This lord has a plan. End chapter.